Okay, we are here with Maya to talk about Cancer Moon psychology and childhood. We're specifically looking at how they process emotions, how they grew up, how their mother was, because the mother is associated with the moon and things like that. So Maya also has a Cancer Moon, so she might be able to offer us some insight if she wants to share some personal anecdotes. But let's go ahead and jump in. So basically a moon loves to be in the sign of Cancer because it is at home here. It feels like the emotions can process and run freely. Sometimes, though, that means that this person can run a little bit too freely in the sense that they can be more sensitive and just kind of experience more of the ups and downs emotionally, which is why it's super important for them to have like a safe space and a safe environment for those emotional fluctuations to occur. And so they need a partner like that. And they typically grow up in a household like that, one that's really nurturing, one that's really accepting of who they are in most instances. And usually the mother will be extremely nurturing, but sometimes that can run over into being a little bit emotionally overbearing, like Maya used the word protective, or even a helicopter mom, someone who is almost like really worried about their kids and will overly mother their child. So that can sometimes be a lot. And then someone with a moon in Cancer, there is almost like this karmic bond between the child and the mother. And this could span across a previous lifetime of some kind of connection, but there is like an emotional tie from one heart to the other heart. And sometimes like kids are just doing their own thing, like with other moon signs, like kids are doing their own thing and they are impacted by their mother and everything like that. But someone with the moon in Cancer is much more impacted by the mother. They're much more attuned to the emotional needs of the mother, to the ups and the downs of their mother. And it can also be because they are so intuitive and sensitive. They can really feel when something shifts in the mother. Like, is her emotions going down? Is she becoming really happy? And I was talking to Maya about this before, and how that can affect the individual is to make them take it more personally. Like, oh, my mom is feeling down. Like, how is that related to me? How am I maybe affecting her? Or how does this make me feel, essentially? And of course, every kid is going to experience that to an extent, but I think kids with like moon in Cancer could take more of that on because there's typically a little bit more of an enmeshment in that relationship, and a little bit more of a, like a bond and neediness there.
Can I just say something about that really
Please,
quick?
please.
Yeah. I think like I'm just listening to you, and I think that like because of that over attunement to the mother, like in that ability to catch on the moment that like her emotions start to go down or up, at least in my experience, and maybe people can relate to this, is because I could catch it so quickly and was so tapped into it, it felt so uncomfortable for me that I would get like angry at her. And I think that actually, even though there's this beautiful bond and this beautiful like nurture that's happening between the two, I think that that ability to feel mom's emotions so deeply and like not know what to do with it, is it me, is it her, like I don't know what's happening here, actually causes like a almost like a rift in the relationship. It doesn't pull them apart, but it causes like some resentment or some like anger at the mom too.
I think that makes a lot of sense, when we're talking about this being almost like a karmic connection, because whenever I see that with karmic connections, it's like there's this unbreakable bond, but there's also these weird lessons that you're learning from each other in the process. And so it's like the mother is experiencing something, and then it's simultaneously affecting the child. And like you said, it can cause these interesting kind of wave of emotions between them in reaction to that. So yeah, I think one of the processes that an individual with the moon in Cancer has to undergo is, first of all, learning how to process really negative and difficult emotions. I think they feel so strongly and they are so attuned that I think what's great about them is that they feel them and they allow them to flow through them, but that doesn't always mean that they have the proper tools to like fully understand what's happening and process it in a super healthy way. Go ahead, Maya.
Yeah. Obviously this one I'm gonna have a lot to say, but I feel like actually that can come as a result of the enmeshment too, and of the like overprotection. And I said to you before, like there's almost like this babying of the child. And I feel like when that happens, like mom takes care of it, or like you never really have to be the grown up to learn how
Yeah.
to deal with the emotion. And so I do see that. I see that it can be really hard, and to learn how to deal with your negative emotion. And I think like we can get really lost in it and
Yeah.
really want someone to take us out of it.
Yeah.
Someone else. Yeah.
I have a friend who was like that. Her mother was super like super moon and cancer type of mom, super nurturing, maybe overbearing. Um, and then her dad died. And it was like that circumstance, I think really debilitated her in a lot of ways. Like she like moved out of the house for a year and then she just moved right back in with her mom. I think she might still be living with her. You know, she's in her late 20s. It's like the individuation process hasn't really happened for her to the extent that it needs to. And that's the other thing about the moon and cancer individual, is the need to be able to, like Maya was telling me earlier off the call, individuate in a healthy way. And that can be difficult. It's like the natural process of kind of growing up and having your own voice and your own opinion, doing your own things that can come across in a different way. So do you want to share anything about that, Maya?
Yeah, like I can share my own experience of that. So from a psychology perspective, what I believe is like around the age of 18, and probably till like 25 is like that healthy range for individuation, where like a person is realizing that they've already realized they're separate than their parents, but they're going out into the world and realizing that they're going to make their life for themselves. They get to have their own belief system, their own values, their own choices and everything. And so healthy individuation should start to happen there. But from my experience, what happened was, because of that enmeshment and because of that like over attunement and kind of like overprotectiveness, I felt a little bit suffocated, I think. And so instead of going toward that healthy individuation, I went toward rebellion. Like I just like did everything that would upset my mom, and like I did things that weren't healthy for me. I mean, I went into this total rebellion. And I guess because me as an individual, I have emotional intelligence. I and had a desire to learn emotional intelligence. I realized what I was doing, and I individuated way later, like in a healthy way.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if that's the case for other people with like a moon sign, but like a Cancer moon sign. But for me, like that enmeshment caused a little bit of rebellion, and actually put another like kind of like break or problem in the relationship with my mom. And
Mhm.
when I realized and started healing and moved into a more healthy individuation state, we were able to like mend that. But yeah, for me it kind of like pushed me toward rebellion.
Yeah. And when you're talking, the other thing that I could see also is like guilt around individuation. So if you're not going into rebellion, like I'm suffocated, then, oh, I'm supposed to be separating myself now, but my mom, like I'm so attuned to her. I like there's this like stickiness or this neediness between the two individuals that they might feel bad for wanting to like do something completely different and leave and not even be near their family. So I feel like there's a lot of ways that that can unfold. I think that's why it's important to have, anecdotes like this, but just to kind of see how this can play out in terms of um, the mother child relationship is really interesting. So I think that's pretty much mostly what I wanted to cover. I think basically one of the strongest suits of this type of individual is being very emotionally intelligent, like you were saying, Maya, being really able to understand, um, like to allow emotions to flow instead of blocking them. It's the opposite of a moon in Capricorn, which tries to control the emotion. Moon in Cancer allows it to flow. I think more the process is about like learning what is underlying them, like understanding it and the bigger picture, kind of like you were saying, understanding like what was happening and then making healthy decisions from that place.
Yeah, and I think like for people with a Cancer moon, I think having some kind of career or hobby or outlet that involves emotions. I mean, clearly my whole life is wrapped around emotions, you know, and that's for a reason. I mean, one, I'm intuitively like led that way, but two is like, I am lit up by swimming in emotion, like because of my Cancer moon. And so I think that if we can find healthy ways to like bring more of that emotional depth into our life, we're going to be really fulfilled. And something else that has really helped me, because you were talking about like that up and down in emotion, and there's just so much emotion, is like really, like I was saying, like honing in on emotional intelligence, and also practices, like having like daily practices. I talk about this with a lot of the moon signs, but in terms of the Cancer, it's like having daily practices to be with the emotion and move it through, and just like understand it, get to know it. So it's not like controlling us throughout the day, because it can if we don't do that.
Mhm.
But I think that's where the emotional intelligence helps, where we can like really have tools and practices to kind of like create space for the emotion, but not let it rule us, and like
Yeah,
not let it have the power over us.
definitely. And is there anything you would want to say about how to help the individuation process?
Hmm. It's so like subjective, I think,
Yeah.
to each person and their relationship with their mom and what their mom is like. Um, or parents in general. But I think like recognizing that to help the individuation process, empowerment. It's like recognizing when you're living a life that isn't yours. Because if we haven't individuated, essentially we're living a life that's not ours. We're living by our parents' desires, our parents' values, our parents' beliefs. And there's something that feels bad about that. Like if we don't know that consciously that we're doing that, like we feel like it's not, our life is not ours. So there's a good indicator there. And you know, our parents for the most part love us and want us to be happy. And so I think individuating with grace, like explaining to them what's happening, going and doing your life and being unapologetic about it, and having the empowerment to make those choices yourself. And a lot of times, like if you're stuck there, that's where like therapy or coaching can really help to help you detach from your parents and become like this full whole adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of coaching, where can people find you if they do want help with this and work with you?
Yeah, so the best way to contact me is email. So mayanicolehealing@gmail.com, MAYANICOLE. And yeah, I typically do like a quick free consultation where I can like get to know you, and then we would go from there.
Awesome. I will have that linked below. Thanks so much, Maya. I know that was a shorter video, but I think that the moon in Cancer is such a beautiful individual, super intuitive, in touch with their feminine. They make great mothers. They're very nurturing. They would be just. I think it would be extremely fulfilling for a lot of them to kind of mother either the child or people in some way, which I feel like you do with a lot of your clients. And so yeah, it's a really beautiful moon sign. All of them have their challenges, and I appreciate you walking us through that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.